Hi, this is Dr. Justina Agnieszka Chevalier. This video is on supplements sold over the counter or prescribed. It is very hard to divide supplements into groups because of abundance of those supplements. Overall, supplements can be best understood as derivatives of foods, minerals, and also derivatives of other persons and other animals' body parts, and can be divided into macro and micro elements, which are not only vitamins but also in quantities of administration. Things like, for instance, homeopathy versus large particles in large quantities administered as being healthy or good. Example of that is homeopathic small exposure based on curing with same, meaning a person has, for example, heavy metal poisoning, and for that with mercury, and for that there is an administration of a small dot of mercury to enable clearance of that body, meaning treating same with the same. So that's principle of homeopathy. And second principle is principle of overwhelming with vitamins, which was promoted, for instance, by Canadian practitioners that would supplement and pour basically on a person, such as vitamin C in ascorbic acid in cold, a large amount of a given substance in 305,000 sometimes milligrams or 5 grams, to give, so to saturate, to enable energy circuits and have that body well filled with it. Supplements are in some studies in the past marked as inefficient because of high content of fillers such as rice and other components in these. Rice per se can be a supplement such as any other food. Turmeric, root of for instance, I don't know what else, ginger, etc. And those are all because of high concentration that is possible to obtain synthetically produced and administered. The same rules, because all of supplements have on body and on mind action same as prescription drugs and street drugs or recreational drugs, same rules are applied to supplements, meaning those supplements, if they stimulate and if they supply what is depleted, the answer is always to diagnose what is person taking out of the environment first, to now in a need to be in a need now to replace. So for instance, in fact, killing animals causes deficiency by supply of that meat that is basically called anemia, and is needed to provide what it is that is killing those animals or disguised by ingestion. And in places where those animals are not killed and there are fruits and vegetables, anemias do not occur in abundance of food. And that is why all food pyramids are relative, and normally no human needs supplements to feel good. Overproduction and recommendation of supplements causes in a dependence similar to an impression similar to psychotropic drugs or other drugs like painkillers for chronic diseases or anti-hypertensive medication, or anti-sugar metabolism medication, or hormones. And it is to be minded that cure does not consist in ever chronic administration of any substance or anything that a body rejects as not tasteful or as bad. Many supplements are also used to work out. Anything that is derived of animals to work out creates a surge of energy and muscle that then consumes energy because of the animals being killed and harmed, and that person has an urge to work more and feels heavier, in need to eat more, and not necessary is the best outcome, because the same amount of muscles, if we look for instance at bulls, horses, or persons that are authors of books, being triathletes and other high intensity workers that work and consume sufficient amounts of protein, carbohydrates, and sugars, complex and simple ones, per urge to eat, which is always proportional to what's available around. Supplements such as vitamins are not necessary unless food is deficient. Food is deficient when economy is deficient, regardless of a, um, a season, and when division of goods is inefficient. And so food is provided as soothing for cravings, and those cravings are maladjusted because lack of sexual education, and also because of lack of socializing and social circles and other activities that uh, compensate only in an illusory way, the same as sexual activity without pursuit of children. And that is why these supplements are okay, the same as medication, to fix that need psychologically created by supply on demand when there's an urge to buy so, whereas when that is no longer necessary, for example, a pre-workout carnitine or creatine is not necessary when that workout is substituted by a ambulation or walking to work, by having working biking trails and the trails to go from one place to another, and those muscles then and that body, like in many places, for instance place in Italy where persons have children at the age of 60 something, some smoke as well, some also have those children until later and live past as registered past the age of 100. The same was registered in some countries in Australia and in China as well. And Jesus was also registered as a person who was living past a very old age, and some say still alive, because of hygiene of life. And so that is when there's a demand for activity for muscles, such as going to see patients, such as going to meet persons, such as going to provide for self food or for family, such as I don't know, clothes or food or assistance. And that is enabled when there are roads, and the pre-workout, then creatine, carnitine, or large amounts of caffeine and proteins are not necessary to have healthy movements and muscle mass. Why? There's a demand, there's adrenal circuit normal one activated, and there is a working body, and slowly persons, if one is a general practitioner, stop to fear being free of any substances in lack of disease or suffering that is manifested by suffering or pain, resolvable always by diagnosis. What are the supplements otherwise? Other supplements. There are many substances that withdrawn from different obtained from different type of plants, a different type of for instance minerals such as sulfur, such as cobalt, such as what else there is, derivatives of metal, and also I don't know, memory enhancements that are derived from fats and fatty acids. All of this is provided as macromolecules and micromolecules in proper nutrition. When that nutrition takes away lives in the area that kills as consumption of meat, milk, and eggs humans and causes diseases, then supplementation of those things is like having insufficient amount of plants and administering small amounts of these to full body for some time, that the body is obtaining enough nutrition, as opposed to enabling agriculture and fair pricing in exported and imported in exchange fruits and vegetables and goods and plants and seeds. And so that is how supplements need to be always also temporary, meaning when there is suffering, and always remediated by appropriate division of, for instance, division of what is it called, goods distribution, agriculture, also by food resources, and that in that area needs to result in greenhouses all over, for instance, Arizona, New Mexico, all over areas, even in Alaska, with greenhouse settings that is on a budget sometimes $10,000 or more for a huge one, with bananas, with beans and plants, in fields with naturally occurring when desert cactuses that are eatable, and even for decoration, plants that bring fruits that fall under the legs of persons in cities and outside to eat and consume, and as Benevo, for instance, does, even share with animals considered normally forced to pursue when dying, death, or decomposing organism, when obtained facility to be provided food, not doing so and being friendly, such as all 100% of humans. Okay? And so supplements are then to be considered remediation, short-term one, of deficient economy of food, water, and also of the work distribution to enable, for instance, conditioning for strenuous superhuman work somewhere, diagnosing the whole area, because even the freaking car explodes if it's not done. Such is also pursuit of useless education for 20 years instead of work that others are forced, even freaking by force, to perform work that is waiting and begging itself to be done. And that is also in supplements that are still experimental, that cause amelioration of memory for elders, for instance. Not only lecithin, there are so many of those. When that person cannot remember because the person has so many helpers, in fact, and each has a different opinion and priority, especially when children are rumored as being first ones to learn and to remember things, that person has to acquire social status appropriate to education and age, and stop being treated as a minor or a student, to regain clarity of mind and memory and self-esteem, faith in that brain that that memory works without that lecithin, ginkgo biloba, and other things, which does not mean blame others. It means find appropriate niche to elevate that person and work that that mind is prone to naturally by enthusiasm and predilection to do. And then those ginkgo bilobas, also all of the drugs that I forgot to mention, memantine, and all of those drugs that work on receptors responsible for memory. That also same is for the drugs like Chantix and all other ones, are remediated by appropriate distribution of goods, and remediated also by appropriate sale of goods, as well as appropriate division of roles based on demand at all times. And so is true also to money. And so supplements are also omega-3, for instance, harmful because they kill fish. Omega-3 derived from plants is less harmful. However, ingestion of such when there is no food is, because of its presence, creating urge to do so, to sustain brain function, again in bouts, for some time, then nothing. The thing is to be thrown away because enough fish was killed to cause death in that human. And suffering always settles for as long as we take something away in life or harm to then provide it to self, and that harm and taking does not end because we do not improve in progress in how we manage our space in our countries.